Welcome to The Buzz. We're going to have some fun, hear things you will never hear anywhere else, and learn how to take 1 hour off your marathon PR. That may be an exaggeration, but I am Buzz Burrell, and we're going to have real conversations with the people who help define this amazing sport of running, which often feels like more than just a sport. So send me your questions and comments to buzz@ultrasignup.com so we can do this together. This is a production of UltraSignup. Thank you for joining me.
Hey trail friends, we want to hear from you. UltraSignup is running a quick listener survey to help us keep making podcasts that you love. It only takes a few minutes, and your feedback really helps us shape what's next. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thanks for being part of our trail running community.
This episode is brought to you by Arc'teryx. Based in British Columbia, Canada, Arc'teryx has been making outstanding technical outerwear for 35 years, and now they are making outstanding technical trail running shoes. The Vertex Speed is their new shoe. It features a Vibram Mega Grip outsole, 7mm heel-to-toe drop, and a zoned midsole, which means it's stiff in the front for control on technical terrain and softer in the heel for cushion on the descents. One of their models has a gaiter cuff to keep the dirt out, a feature I definitely appreciate because it greatly improves function while adding almost no weight. Speaking of weight, these only weigh a bit over 8 ounces. You can purchase the Vertex Speed online or at Arc'teryx's own retail stores. Thank you, Arc'teryx, and to everyone listening for your support. We're going worldwide on today's podcast, and I'm right now speaking with Fritz Sitte from Berlin, Germany. Welcome, Fritz.
Hey, Buzz.
Well, it's good to speak with you. And pardon me, Fritz, you've done some interesting projects, which we're going to get to right away. And a lot of people have not heard about you. You weren't in the top 10 at the UTMB. You weren't in the top 10 at Western States 100. You are, shall we say, an adventurer, a journey runner. Would that be a good way to put it?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, some real big projects, including, and we're going to focus on this for a second. You ran the length of Africa. That's kind of a long ways. That's 10,200 kilometers. For us Norte Americanos, that's like 6,400 miles. That's a long trip. Fill us in. When did you do that, Fritz?
That was the first attempt that started in October 23 and lasted about 23 days. And then I came down with a hip injury. And yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a back and forth. I didn't know what was going on in the first place. Eventually, all the physios couldn't help, and we had an MRI scan and realized after 2 weeks of sitting and waiting that the project would be over because I had a hip inflammation. And then I decided to go back to the start line, do rehab and training again in Cape Town. That's where we started, and then started all over again in March 2024. And finished in, I think, 22nd of November, like November last year.
That's a big trip. So, pardon me. 8 months. So it took you 8 months to go about roughly 6,400 miles south to north across the continent of Africa. Is that about right?
Yeah. That's
8
it.
months is a long time. So what does this look like? Because we're familiar with people who've done the Appalachian Trail, supported and unsupported. Sometimes they have someone meeting them 3 times a day, giving them food and water, but you probably did not have support like that, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I had my brother with me, and we did it, the two of us, and he was cycling along, and I was running. We had no motorized support, no cars or no AC or whatever, and had to carry everything ourselves. I mean, me personally, mostly, I had my little hydration vest, and most of the equipment and weight and food was with my brother. So I had support, but no vehicles.
That's very clever. That's like this compromise plan, isn't it? Because to do it on foot would just be bonkers. I'm not sure how it could be done. I mean, unless you're pulling a trailer with some water in it and food and so forth. But a bicycle, you can carry a little bit more weight, and so you have a little bit of food and water. Now, great support, but the bicycle allows you to eat and drink along the way, which is helpful.
Totally. Yeah, you just need to find someone crazy enough to cycle along.
Or someone related to you who likes you a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Oh, so he did the whole trip also.
Yeah, we did it as brothers together. Yeah,
That adds a lot to it, doesn't it? That's a shared experience.
totally. Yeah, a lot of beautiful experiences, but also, yeah, I mean, like you're going together, and my brother could never complain because everything he would do on the bike, I had to run. And I couldn't complain because, he was carrying everything. So I was depending on him. And so you sort of back each other. And yeah, there's no clear leader in that. You need both parts to equal degrees, and you got to make it work as a team.
What an amazing style. I literally have never heard of that, but it makes complete sense. So one person on the bike, one person on foot. And in Africa, you're not going to be running on a trail. I mean, that would be nuts. Maybe a animal, a lion or tiger could do it, but there's no trails that do this. So you're definitely on roads. And so the bicycle works really well. Wheels work really well. But I like what you said. Who can complain? I mean, you're
Yeah.
doing it on foot, so he's not going to say, come on, hurry up, you're going too slow. And what are you going to say to him? He's got your food. You can't get him mad at you.
Yeah, totally. And so it's, you have to make it work, and you learn a lot through that. But also, that's the biggest, that's sort of your biggest point of weakness. I think whenever we did have arguments, it was basically like we would sit down, resolve them either the day after or even within that day, because like the moment you realize like you can sacrifice your own body, you can go to great lengths also psychologically and overcome heat and wind and all of that. But once you realize you're in that mission sacrificing or compromising the relationship with your brother, like that's a full stop. That's the moment when it's not worth it anymore. And so that was for us always the thing that would pull the plug. Like we had to, if it wasn't the two of us, then there was nothing else. So we had to make sure that we would maintain that relationship, and otherwise it was just a full stop. Yeah.
Very good point. So the relationship was primary. To jeopardize the relationship would have been made the trip kind of stupid in a way, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And it was razor edge, because you always you have to push each other to some degree. And it's very demanding for both of you. So yeah, it's like it was my idea to do it, and it was my ambition. And obviously, if you try and go to such length, then you absorb and consume a lot of energy of those around you who back you, no matter what. I think everybody who's ever done crewing for someone else will know that, you push your body through everything you can. And so you need that support around you. But then you got to make sure that you don't push those around you too far. And yeah, I had to learn that as well. There's my ambition, but my ambition also has a cost. And if it has a cost to me, that's one thing. But once it starts having a cost for my brother, and I start hurting the person that, is in that with me and supporting me every day, then that's a line. And so to navigate that was definitely one essential part.
Excellent description, Fritz. I appreciate that. Because I think myself and many of our listeners have been to ultra races, whether it's crews out there supporting the runner, and occasionally you see the runner kind of on the rivet, suffering or not having a good time, whatever it happens to be. And if they start yelling or getting mad at the crew, it's not a great look, but it does happen. You made it part of the journey. Working out that relationship and the communication was part of the trip.
Yeah, and in the end you learn for me that was just like there was no getting mad or acting out on my brother or anyone really, right? It's not only that it's the two of us, you go through a continent that is full of life in the best way, but also in the most demanding way. There's areas where you go on the roads and people live along the roads and they're curious what you do. And they will interact with you if you like it or not, and it's no one's fault that you push yourself to your physical edge. So you must always still have that capacity to also show up for others. And that sometimes is, that is, the really tough part sometimes to keep it together. I think, when you're out in nature is sort of, you just can't argue with nature, so you don't even start, right? Like if you have a mountain or heat or wind or rain, whatever is bothering you, I mean, you can start screaming, you can start crying, but that's not gonna change nature. So the only way is to change your attitude within. And I think the art is then to translate that also to people, right? Like not to try and change them all the time and complain about them, but also resolve that within.
Well, you learned a very good life lesson there. It's considerably more effective to change yourself than to change the world, especially the weather, not known to be very effective. And then you extrapolated that out into everything else, particularly with people. You're going to interact with people is what you're saying on a trip like this. This is a journey run. You don't have your head down the whole way. They're going to interact with you no matter what. And so you want to reserve a little bit of energy and intentionality so you can have a good interaction with those people.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's what the run was about, right? Like our mission or the message is people are great. And that's what we experienced all along the way. That is also part of not having a car is you lower your boundaries. You're much more approachable to everyone you meet. You're much more on eye level. You show up with your own physical efforts. And, a car is always some form of status and some form of power because many people cannot afford a car. But if you show up on your own 2 feet or on a bicycle, you're much closer to people, and sometimes you share the same physical struggle of the weather around you or whatever it may be. And so you're much more vulnerable, but much more approachable. And as it turns out, that's nothing that's exploited, but it's rewarded. And we were rewarded almost every day with people helping us out when we need it. And that was the true, beautiful experience of that trip, and also what we wanted to share and show with doing this endeavor, with documenting it on Instagram and getting those videos out, is all this hospitality and all this love that is out there and that gets shared, far too little. Because we listen to a lot of negative stuff that's happening and miss all the beauty that's out there.
There is a lot of negative stuff, and we are missing some beauty that is out there. Your Instagram, people, you can write this down if you want. It's Fritz, FRITZ MAX _adventure. And Fritz's website is Fritz Sitte. It's FRITZSITTE.de, the German, of course, domain name. Well, that's terrific, Fritz. I like what you said about the car. I definitely experienced this myself, if I may. 39 years ago, I rode my bicycle from Kathmandu, Nepal to Lhasa, Tibet. It was the same thing. If you're in a car, you think about support, you think about comfort, but really it's a cultural bubble.
Yeah.
You have isolated yourself. You can put up this little bubble, you can roll up the window, and suddenly you're not there. You're in your own little bubble. Well, if you're on foot or on a bike, you can't do that. You're in that world, not just the weather, but you are immersed in that cultural, because on a trip of that length, you're got to be getting food and water and supplies along the way. I mean, you're not hauling power bars, for 8 months. And so that's what I experienced.
Totally.
Without the car, there's no cultural bubble. You're in the culture. Your interaction is required, and it's really what the trip is about.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's lowering the boundaries with the people you approach and meet, but also the environment, right? I mean, you engage all your senses. Running specifically, I mean, why do many of us go out and run? We connect with the ground. We have our feet on the ground. You have the wind and the sun on your skin, and you can smell what's around you. You can hear things. When you're in the car, you only have your eyes, right? Like sort of the way you engage with your environment is very limited. But when you're out there running, you experience so many more things that make you feel much more connected to the landscapes and the environments you go through. And it also then again helps to understand the people living in that environment, right? So yeah, it's a very beautiful way of exploring.
This is good because we obviously on this podcast and in the media in general, we talk about racing quite a bit, occasionally training, but we don't often talk about the journey.
Yeah.
This is what you did. It's a journey run where you obviously were covering a lot of distance on foot in a given amount of time, but it was really about experiencing the culture, experiencing that place, and experiencing yourself. So it was a classic journey that's been done for hundreds of thousands of years, you could say. It's like a pilgrimage type effort that's been documented throughout history.
A fast pilgrimage.
Right. So, for people who might want to take on, maybe not Africa, but something a little smaller, let's look at the logistics of this. Food. I mean, you're buying food along the way, I would presume. So what did that look like? What was, for example, a long distance you had to go in between supply stops? And I guess I want to ask two questions. What were you eating?
Yeah, so we would, since we had the bike, we could store food that is sort of dry for quite some time. So we would often get oats for our breakfast and mix that with either cocoa or protein powder. So we could just pour on some water in the morning, add some nuts. You get peanut butter everywhere. So peanut butter and bananas are definitely high up on the list of what you eat throughout those 8 months. And then, a lunch would typically be rice and beans. That's sort of the staple you get along the road. I eat vegetarian, so you would also find chicken and whatever, but for me, I prefer rice and beans. And actually, the distances are usually not that far because a lot of people, as I said, there's a high amount of the population that does not have access to cars, and so they walk, they go on bike or whatever, but that means that distances between villages are often quite short, between 10 and 20 kilometers, and so it's fairly easy to get supplies. When you think about sort of more developed African countries, like for example South Africa or Namibia, that's actually where the distances get much longer because the infrastructure assumes you have access to a car. And so sometimes there you have 100, 200 kilometers of nothing. But the rest of the continent, the supply network in terms of, having access to food and water is pretty great, especially for going around on foot or on bike. And even in the Sahara Desert, we would find something, it could just be like a tiny little stall or whatever, but something would always show up after like 70 or 80 kilometers. And then when we really ran out of water in between, there would be cars stopping or trucks to give us water, because in those remote sections, it's either the main road or nothing. You're in deep sand and dunes, so everybody has to take that one road. So inevitably, sooner or later, someone will pass by, and that's also your safety net if you want.
Well, I love the irony. The paradox is that the more developed the country, the less easy it was to get supplies. Because in the underdeveloped countries, people are walking. And so there's something within walking distance. Of course, here we are in the United States, where I'm based, and you can go across Nevada, and you're going a long way between anything. I mean, walking across Nevada would be a project. Walking across Nebraska would be a project. I spent a lot of time in Moab, and there's a sign on Interstate 70 that says next services, I think it's 78 miles, which is way over 100 kilometers. That's like 120 kilometers between anything, water of any kind. But if it's a foot-based, pedestrian-based culture, then it's shorter. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's actually, and that's great. You always meet people on the road, along the road, and it can be quite tiring at times because there's few people who are white, and there's definitely few people who run and are white. So that's just also for people who see you, they're like, why the fuck would you not drive a car? What is wrong with you? And so you're always the center of attention, and that obviously can get tiring at times.
They have a point, though, do they not?
Definitely, yeah.
We're people of privilege. I mean, that's just the word that technically makes sense. We have means. You, me, we all could drive a car anywhere we want. I think many of us could take a helicopter or an airplane most places we want, but obviously many of us choose to go on foot. And so I think I've heard that you're shifting the gear a little bit here. You're working on a book. That's what I hear. And the working title is A Meaningful Meaninglessness, which is a little bit, I mean, you can explain it to me, but it sounds like, so why are we doing this? It is an open question, and you're going to take a crack at answering it?
So yeah, exactly. Like the book is still work in progress, but absolutely. I mean, it's this paradox of, you go out and you run across the African continent and try and do so in world record time. And there's no meaning to that, right? And I sometimes look at races or any kind of endeavor a bit like two ants racing over a carpet. I mean, who could care less about which ant arrives at the end of the carpet sooner or later? Like what difference does it make? And in the end, that's us doing our little races and whatever. There's no inherent meaning in that. So in the end, that's the meaninglessness. But then in that pursuit of, this ridiculous record, you get to meet people, you create moments that otherwise wouldn't be there. You get to tell these stories that then actually impact other people's lives, that then do make a difference. And so through that ridiculous pursuit, you create meaning. And so that's sort of that paradox, that you do something ridiculous, but in that you find and create meaning.
Okay. All right. Well, the book, the working title is A Meaningful Meaninglessness. So maybe next year, or maybe you're going to do a few more runs, and then people will see it on the bookstore shelf. Or come to think of it, you do have a few more projects coming up, I believe. I think we're recording this on August 7th, which means it's going to be released. People will be listening to this on anytime after August 11th, 12th. So on August 30th, though, I hear you're going to attempt to run across Germany.
Yeah, that's right. Going the length of Germany and trying to set an official FKT. Interestingly, no one's done that in Germany so far. Not like you guys in the US, where everybody keeps racing from east to west coast and vice versa. So yeah, it's 1,000 kilometers, a bit more than 600 miles. And so I'm trying to do over 60 miles a day, finishing under 10 days. And I just see how fast I can go. Explore my own country, to be honest. There's a lot of I checked the route, and most of the places, you go and travel far, but then within your own country, you often miss many sections as well. And as we go down right through the center, there's many places I've never seen and never been to, and that'll be that'll be interesting to see as well. And we'll do fundraising for a university, an online university providing education and higher education for refugees. in Germany, but around the world, obviously. You can log in from refugee camps and keep pursuing education that otherwise would get a full stop. And that's again adding, the meaning to the meaninglessness. Using a bit of the attention we hopefully get with this record attempt, and use it for some good.
Right, right. I understand. Well, my friends Peter Beckman and Stephanie Arrett once ran across France. I think that was north to south. And Peter had a pretty good joke as he said he's going for a cross-country run. Thank you. I thought it was sort of subtle, but I thought it was kind of fun. This is cross-country running, and that's what you're about to do here in a few weeks. Well, good for you. Now that's going to be a tough project, though. I think on your Africa run, I presume you and your brother probably tried to keep something of a schedule, but you probably had to go with the flow to a certain degree. Well, Germany, you want to get 100K a day.
Yeah, so that'll be... Yeah, I mean, 100 to, however far I can go, trying to get it over 100, and then you literally you run out of time, there's not a lot of margin left. If you still want to eat and you still want to sleep in between, then you have to have a bit of a schedule and more sort of rigorous project execution. It'll still be going with the flow. We debated if we want to check the route up front. And literally, if I know the route up front, then I don't want to run it anymore. So that's an integral part of, being able to execute these challenges, at least for me, is, there has to be that bit of uncertainty and unknown, the little things you can still explore along the way that you don't expect might make it a bit harder. But there's got to be room for that. So it won't be a super strict schedule, but definitely a rough idea of what should happen when.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because Peter and Steph Peterson, they were outstanding ultra runners. They were very good. But their feet swelled up. I mean, it was kind of a tough look, to be honest. They had to take knives and cut open their shoes and tape ice onto their ankles. It was not something I was attracted to doing personally, but you've got a lot of experience with this, so I presume you've worked out some techniques for this. I mean, you have super squishy shoes, or your logistics got to be dialed for this one. You can't go out there and just wing this one. So what's your plan?
Yeah, I mean, this time we'll have a car, so we have a van, and I hope that helps to smooth things out. So we have obviously spare shoes and a bit of tools to recover and tape and all sorts of things. And in the end, we'll see what will happen.
You're sleeping in the van every night, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you got someone to make the food and feed you, because otherwise you can't do that yourself.
No, exactly. I mean, Max will be with me again. He will cycle most of the way, but he'll have the flexibility of either cycling by my side or being in the car and do the social media part, document everything. But then again, also have some time to sit in the car and maybe cut some stuff and get things out on social media. And then we have a third crew member, Tim. He will be driving and cooking. And we'll also have a professional photographer and videographer with us. So between the four of us, or between the three of them, I hope somebody will have food ready in time for me, so I can basically sit down, chow on some whatever pasta, and then keep going.
It's a team.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a total team, and you're simply the designated runner.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Pete Kostelnik, you certainly heard of Pete. He still has the record going from San Francisco to New York City, over 3,000 miles. Oh, gee. And, he was averaging about 72 miles per day, which is nuts. I mean, that's a long time. That's 72 miles a day is incredible.
Yeah.
And that time still stands. And so if you're going 100K, 62, maybe 120, 72, you're doing really, really well. That'd be a major accomplishment.
Yeah. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, I will tell more about that hopefully on another episode. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely someone who I'm not shy of trying things, and I mean, there's always room for failure as well. And you won't know before you haven't tried. That doesn't mean that I don't prepare, but the whole Africa thing was also about, in the end, doing it, and you learn through experience. And if you always try to have a plan and a backup and a backup and a backup, at some point you're just trying to control too much. So you got to get out there and learn, and worst case, try again. I don't know. Let's see. But what I do,
pardon me, but this is really important. And you hear the top people saying this. So it's good to hear you say this. I just want to bring attention to what you just said. Failure is, what do you mean? What does that even mean? You're going to get out there, you're going to take a shot, you're going to start something, you're going to learn. And if you come up short, is this a failure? It's sort of it's an interesting way to sort out literally how to look at it, isn't it?
No, exactly, because I mean, in the end, it's exactly not a failure, right? So, like, we had the same thing when we had a first attempt running across Africa, and so, I mean, yeah, we learned and we adapted for our second attempt, and I mean, I had a precondition in my hip that I didn't know about, and know that now that I do know about it, I can address it with strength and mobility training. But you stand there, you've run through incredible heat, no supplies, through the Namibian desert. You managed 23 consecutive ultramarathons, and then you end up with an injury. And I mean, it's like, who can say that that's a failure? Well, then be my guest and run from Cape Town to Windhoek and, do it yourself. But that's exactly the thing, I think, that you got to realize is like if you try and test your own boundary, things can go wrong. But in the end, like, none of my friends like me for the distance I run. They like me for other things. So they're still going to be there, even if I end up not finishing. And that's what matters, I guess.
Good one-liner there, Fritz. They don't like you for the distance you run. That'd become an odd friend, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So people listening to this, there must be much advice you'd like to give. Wayne Gretzky was a U.S. hockey player, but he has a great one-liner. You miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of sums it up a little bit. So what would you say to people listening to this who might say, I'd like to go on a journey run. I'd like to run across Iowa, or I'd like to run across Italy or something like that, or whatever their route happens to be. What is it? Footwear, training? What are the important things to hear?
I mean, if you actually do want to run, I think one great thing is strength training. Because if you do things repetitively and you keep having this impact on your legs, then you want to have the strength to maintain this effort to prevent injury. I think you can always build the cardiovascular. I mean, if you have this idea to begin with, then probably you built up some cardiovascular fitness already, but you can still build it along the way, right? Like, if you just keep moving, at some point you're gonna get fit, but you don't want to get injured before you get fit. So strength training, I think, is quite essential for like doing long, low efforts. That is one thing. And then, I mean, the other, it's like, if you're not in it to set records or whatever, and just take a chill. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you do 40, 50, 60 kilometers a day. Unless you like to challenge yourself, then obviously you can, you'll always find ways to find your own physical boundaries. If you sort of use running as a means of doing a journey and exploring, the beauty comes no matter if you do 35 kilometers a day or 50. And so I think you don't have to think you must be incredibly fit or an incredibly talented runner, or you must have done XYZ ultra marathons and races. Before I started running Africa, I've never done an official ultra race, and I ran 60 Ks once in my life before I started off running in Cape Town. I just knew that like I can do adventures, and I didn't know if I could run, and so I trained, but I wouldn't know. And that's probably when I look at also doing other projects, I'm just not scared to think beyond marathons. But I'm not necessarily an exceptionally good runner. And so I think allowing yourself to explore and be curious. And I think the more you sort of realize that in the end, doing these pursuits gets you to places you otherwise wouldn't see, gets you to people you otherwise wouldn't meet, then that becomes the beauty of running. And then it's not so much about how fast you arrive there.
I like this perspective because, again, we kind of, in the media, in the running media, we can be really race-oriented. And yet, if you ask someone, not that many people run to race. They like it for various reasons, whether it's health, social, fitness, explore, adventure. But we kind of get into this race mode nonetheless. We sort of get stuck in it, maybe. What you're saying is, unless you're going for a notable FKT, why push it? Why put the pressure on yourself? Just say, well, it can take a little bit more time. You're still going to do the journey. You're still going to learn as much or more things than if you would have, gone sun up to sundown every day.
Yeah, I have this rule with my coach that like I'm happy to do the intervals, but then like don't let me do my long runs, and I just do them in my own pace and my own whatever. And sometimes I don't even take my watch or anything, just so I can be out there and explore and exactly not over this training and over this pursuit not lose the joy and the beauty that running offers.
And I had this thought as well, Fritz. You just reminded me of it. This year is the 4th summer in a row I've been in the Alps. And I'm doing, as you mentioned, these longer journey runs. And like you said, there's food, there's shelter, there's huts. You can go for months in the Alps, literally months, and really good food 2 or 3 times a day, actually. And so I'm saying, okay, I can do Zermatt to Chamonix, this route I created. And I'm just thinking, well, can I do it in 4 days? Can I do it in 3 days? And suddenly I go, what am I talking about? Why don't I do it in 10 days? I mean, I'm here because it's so nice. I'm here because I like it. I'm here because it's beautiful. And so to see how quickly I can do it is actually illogical. But that's how been thinking for the past 50 years. So thank you for the perspective that for the people listening to this, you don't have to do 100K a day. You don't have to do 30. You can do 10 kilometers a day and have a good time on a journey run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's sort of, we take this mindset of performance and pressure and having to achieve goals from probably our work life that we want to escape from in the first place. But then without realizing, we start applying it to our hobby that actually shall be a relief from all that, performance pressure. And again, we start doing the same thing and start racing and chase PBs instead of actually get out there and connect with our own bodies and our environment. Or at least for me, is the reason I get out there and run in the first place.
Another brilliant observation: we have our performance pressure, we have our work pressure from our 4-pay jobs. We want to get away from it, but instead we transpose the same attitude to our recreation. Okay, so let's take a deep breath here, and I like your attitude, Fritz. I'm going to adopt more of it for myself.
That's great.
Okay, and I
hope I can live up to it myself. It's always easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
I fall into the same traps. So I mean, I'm saying this, and again, I'm pursuing the 100K a day. So.
Oh, good. I like the introspection, self-reflection. Excellent. I like your attitude quite a bit. And we'll follow you. We'll see how it goes in September. The cross country run across the country of Germany, and I hear you're thinking of going to the Atacama Desert in November. So you got a lot of plans here.
Yeah, yeah. I hope I'll be in the Atacama. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, bring water or something, because you've been across the Sahara, but as you are aware, the Atacama is the driest place in the world. It's drier than the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, and it's about 4,000 to 5,000 meters higher, at least in parts. So yeah, there's a bit of altitude involved as well. But
This sounds like tons of fun.
Yeah, exactly. What could be more fun than, running 100 miles in 4,000 meters of altitude with no water?
Wow. Well, putting it that way, I'll remind people, the website is Fritz Sitte, FritzSitte.de, and your IG account is fritz.max_adventure. Fritz, I really appreciate your perspective. I mean, you've done some good projects, you got some coming up, but really, you shared a lovely perspective that's been helpful for me to hear, and hopefully it's been engaging for other people and inspiring for other people to go out there and do their own journey run.
Yeah, I hope so too. And thanks for having me. Thanks for the curiosity.
Best of luck, Fritz.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining me. I feel like I'm with all my friends. This is Buzz Burrell, and I'll be back 2 weeks from today, delivering more thoughts you've probably never heard before. This podcast is a production of UltraSignup and releases every other Tuesday, alternating with The Trailhead with Zoe Rome and Brendan Leonard. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe and click that button that says 5 stars, because that helps other people.